not about politics, it's about football.
This is a simple game.
We're going to run the ball, and we're going to pass the ball. We're just going to play football, really.
How good of a football player are you?
I just get it and try to spin it. That's all.
I just love the game.
It really is the best time of the year.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to It's Just Football. I'm Trevor Sikkema. That is Mike Renner. It's a Wednesday, which means we're talking draft. We got a brand new top 10 mock draft for the 2023 NFL Draft. Mike is literally, as we are about to start the show, reviewing his top 100. My guy's been out here grinding this morning, getting the PFF top 100 set, so you have a full pool to draft the top 10. I don't think you needed to go all the way to 100 for the top 10 this morning, but you're an overachiever.
I was actually, it's going to come out on PFF.com tomorrow, is why we got the top 100. But some names going to be left off the list, some big names. No Noah Sewell in the top 100, not having the best year. That's already cut, that's been made. So some fallers, some risers, some interesting names working their way up draft boards. Excited to get to draft season.
Yeah, we're going to be talking draft season a lot on this show, focusing a lot on the updated top 10 draft order. We're going to talk about the teams that are in the top 10. We're going to be talking about the teams that are outside of the top 10, kind of just how we feel the draft landscape is shaping up right now. And as everybody always loves, we're going to give you a mock draft with it. So we'll give you a top 10, brand new top 10 mock draft right here on this show. We're also, since it has been election week, election season, we're doing some campaign speeches. Mike and I are going to represent the Carolina Panthers and the Indianapolis Colts, the two teams that have head coach openings, and you guys are going to have to vote which situation, which campaign you would support. Mine for the Carolina Panthers or Mike's for the Indianapolis Colts. So a little bit of a debate there that you guys got to settle. We'll also bring back a fan favorite segment that we got Drip or Skip, talking about some of the freshest fits or not freshest fits that we've seen around the NFL. That was a lot of fun with you guys when we went over that yesterday. Shout out to everybody who's in on the show early. Shout out to Walt, the chat champ from yesterday. I haven't seen Walt in here yet, but we know he's lurking. We know he's going to get in at some point. He's got draft takes. Walt's got draft takes. Mm-hmm. So the fact that it says
he just forgot his login.
Title,
he forgot his login. He's got
to reset the password. Yeah. That's what he's got to do. Well, he'll be in here at some point. Glad you guys are in here hanging out with us. Quinn, guys in the production portal, how are we feeling this morning?
Chipper.
Ready
to vote.
Ready to
vote for you guys, yeah. One of you guys.
Are you guys gonna? Okay, so I didn't know if you guys had if you guys were allowed to vote, so I'm gonna go to you after the segment.
I mean, we can, sure.
I feel like we have.
I don't have my actual computer pulled up, so I can't.
No. We'll just go to you. You can verbally vote. You can. It's 2022. There's a lot of different ways to vote now. You know, you can mail it in. You know, you can do it electronically on this show.
You can even vote twice, I heard.
Right. You know, some people have claimed that you can even vote twice. Quinn, what do we have as the question of the day here to get us kicked off?
It's funny that you were mentioning draft stuff earlier because today's question of the day is about the draft.
Wonderful.
Which two teams are tied for the most number one overall draft picks in NFL history with 7 apiece?
Which two teams are tied for the most number one overall picks in NFL history? 7.
Cleveland feels
like an easy one.
Like one of them.
Because they had Myles Garrett, they had Baker Mayfield, Joe Thomas, right?
No, he wasn't number one.
Who went? Joe Thomas?
I think he was 2 or 3, right? That was the Calvin Johnson year.
Oh, yeah.
Jamarcus Russell won one that year, right?
Was that the Jamarcus Russell year?
Yeah, I think so.
Wow, okay.
They had that. I mean, Tim Couch they had when they re-upped the Browns.
You got to think of like a historic team,
because there's so many drafts from like the 50s through the 70s.
Well, we got to be talking common era, right? Like it's 1970 on.
I don't think so. I think it's just all of
When do we know?
This is in history.
Oh, all of history.
I still feel good.
Any football
franchises, right? So keep in mind, teams have moved around, different cities.
Oh yeah, so it could be like
that's a little hint.
The Baltimore Colts, right?
Okay.
Could be. I mean, the Jags haven't been around very long, but
yeah, I could see the. No, they haven't had 7, but I could see the Colts /
Colts / Ravens franchise.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a good guess. And then I think the Browns is another guess. There's only 2, right? 2 teams?
Yeah.
I think it was a good guesses. Oh, we've got some votes in the chat. Some people are saying the Detroit Lions. Some people are saying the Rams. This is something that Walt would actually know. Somebody shouted that out. If Walt was in the chat, Walt would actually have this one. So,
I like Colts and Browns.
All right. Somebody said the Bucks. I think the Bucks only had 3.
Maybe the Lions. How many have the Lions had?
No, maybe they've had more than 3, actually. No, they've had more than 3. Now I'm thinking about how terrible they were early on. Now it's just making me sad. We've got a lot of draft talk in the chat already. Mike, people are daring you to take Will Levis at number 1.
Oh.
They're daring you.
Well, I don't
to
have the
do
number
it.
1 overall pick, so.
That's true. I have odds and Mike has evens, but that still gives you a chance to pick Will Levis with your first pick. Somebody also said, what are the odds that you throw Tanner McKee there in the top 10?
I wanted to. I have a bet that he will be a top 10
Do
pick.
you really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Did you get some juicy numbers on there?
If it's just 50-50. I think he will be. That's juicy enough for me because I think he
Put
will.
it out there on Bro Throw.
That's true.
Should that be the bro throw bet this week?
Well, I mean, I don't think Bro Throw is going to have draft bets yet. They're still working on it.
Oh, yeah.
But we'll get there. I mean, we could get there. We can get there. William said Titans in New England for the question of the day. I don't think it's going to be the Titans. Titans haven't been around that long.
Well, they would have been Houston Oilers.
Yes. Okay.
Titans.
So that could be a switch there.
Yeah.
That's clever. It's clever. All right. Well, that's what we're working with. That's the question of the day. You guys can think about it for the rest of the show. It is a major draft Wednesday show, and we said that we were going to get right to it, and we're going to do that here. Let's update the top 10. Okay. I will give you guys the updated top 10 as it stands this week, and we're going to formulate that into a full-blown top 10 mock draft. Picking number 1 overall, Houston Texans. Number 2, Carolina Panthers. Number 3, Las Vegas Raiders. 4, Pittsburgh Steelers. 5, Detroit Lions. 6, the Philadelphia Eagles by way of the New Orleans Saints. 7, we got the Arizona Cardinals. 8, the Jacksonville Jaguars. 9, Chicago Bears. And 10 is the Green Bay Packers. Mike, when you look at this draft order, what really stands out to you? Is it a team that maybe you didn't expect to be in this top 10? Is it a team that's there that is really poised to turn their franchise around? Maybe it's a team that you think might trade back. What do you think about this current order as it stands today?
Well, I go to the top 10 and just outside the top 10 where you have 4 picks among the top 13 right now. When you include New Orleans, who gave that number 6 overall pick to Philly. When you have Denver, who gave the number 11 overall pick now to Seattle. The Rams, who gave the number 12 overall pick to the Lions. And the Browns, who gave 13th overall pick to the Texans. As it stands right now, that's the worry, right? That's kind of what all these teams had skated by not getting. And obviously, it happened to the Texans a few years ago after the Deshaun Watson trade. But a lot of these teams, this is the worry when you give up that future first rounder. You think you're going to make the playoffs. Everyone thinks that one guy's what puts you over the edge.
Right.
Saints are finding out the hard way. Rams might be finding out the hard way that not every season is built the same. And sometimes bottom falls out.
Yeah, the lowest. So when I say the lowest, I mean further down the draft order. The lowest pick that we have that was traded was San Francisco's pick to the Denver Broncos, but that was Miami's pick. So, 20 being the latest here, like you said, you always figure you're going to be picking somewhere in the 20s, hopefully a lot closer to the 30s, contending for a Super Bowl. But that's not even close to the case. We had a bunch of trades, and it's 5 different picks. They're all within the top 20.
Yeah.
It's wild. What do you think about Pittsburgh sitting there at number 4?
Oof.
I'm very curious. And obviously we're going to get into this a little bit once we get into the top 10. But Pittsburgh feels like a team, among maybe a couple of others, that could be a big-time trade-back candidate. You know, if Pittsburgh ends up picking at number 4 when it's all said and done, or whether they're, maybe even higher, maybe somewhere in that top 3, maybe a little further down. What do you think about Pittsburgh's chances to be a trade-down candidate?
I think it's strong because I think Kenny Pickett's going to have shown enough that not a lot of teams are going to give up on him. It's not going to be a Josh Rosen scenario where it's like, oh, he was so bad that we have no confidence in you. It's like, no, he's shown some signs for encouragement, but it's kind of the worry with drafting a quarterback at 20 that you're hoping to be your savior. And why we said that's probably not the best idea. It's like if you're drafting a quarterback at 20 plus, you better have a plan for him to start in the future. It better be like a long-term decision, not this guy's going to start for me rookie year, because usually rookie quarterbacks are bad. And when they are bad, you'd probably draft highly in the NFL draft. And if you're objectively looking at the quarterback prospects that they could be looking at, top 3 in this draft class, all night and day in my opinion in terms of better prospects than Kenny Pickett. And so that incremental difference you obviously would prefer if you're a Pittsburgh Steelers, but they could also flip that number 4 overall pick to get a bevy of picks because this is an aging roster and there's not a ton of young talent.
Dude, and obviously they're sitting here at number 4 just because of how strength the schedule works out, but really they're tied 3, 4, and 5. The Raiders, the Steelers, and the Lions, they all have the same record. Yeah. Funny enough, if the Steelers would have lost to the Buccaneers, which they probably should have, yes, still bitter about it, they'd be sitting there at 1-7. They'd be picking number 1 overall. They would have the number 1 overall pick right now. And so when I look at Pittsburgh, I don't just think about them sitting at the 4 spot, because the 4 spot, you think of the trade value. Okay, C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young, they're probably off the board. It's a little bit different when you get into that talk. But if Pittsburgh, let's just say they end up with the number 2 overall pick, right? Somebody's probably going to take a quarterback at number 1. We think it's going to be Houston, Carolina, something. They're probably going to take a quarterback at number 1. If Pittsburgh's sitting there at number 2, and like you said, if there's a chance Kenny Pickett shows you enough to where you're not picking a quarterback, all of a sudden you've got Detroit, Vegas, Indianapolis, wherever Indianapolis is going to be at the end of the year. All of these teams desperate for quarterbacks. If they're sitting there, if Pittsburgh's sitting there at number 2, what's stopping Detroit from having their 2 first-round picks, let's say number 5 and let's say number 12 where they're currently sitting, and Detroit goes, we'll give you 5 and 12, we can get up to 2 to go get a quarterback. Because Detroit has to, right? They're basically in that situation. So Pittsburgh, the more games they lose, it's not just the potential of a quarterback, but it is the ability to trade down now because they might have that guy that they think could still be a good quarterback for them, and all of a sudden you got 2 top 12 first-round picks.
Yeah, it's very much shaping up to be like 2021, where if you're sitting there in the top 3, like Miami was, and this obviously could be the Steelers this year's draft, and you're not going to draft a quarterback. And if you looked at these quarterbacks and said, I'm going to stick with my guy, which, sure, by all means, do that, whatever. It'd be idiotic to stay at that pick. It's going to be idiotic to stay with that pick in this year's draft. Someone's going to want to go up and get it. If you can get anything for someone to go up and get it, and obviously desperation, the trade value goes higher when that trade is for a quarterback, someone wants that trade back because one Will Anderson, one Jalen Carter is not putting this Pittsburgh Steelers team over the edge.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat right now, and they're obviously talking about the Steelers as we're talking about the Steelers. El Mucho Ding Dong, our chat champ from earlier in the week, said, imagine the Steelers running J.J. Watt and Will Anderson off the edges and Cam Hayward maybe still playing inside before he retires. I mean, that is a nasty D-line. Yeah. The thought of those guys all playing together. Elliot said Pitt fans would go crazy if they passed on Will Anderson to trade down, and I'm here for it. I don't know if they would. Like, Will Anderson's great, don't get me wrong. I think he's a phenomenal player. But if you can trade back and you're Pittsburgh, you can get yourself 5 and 12, maybe you're still getting Jalen Carter at 5, right? Because of how big the quarterback demand would be this year. And then maybe you're getting a really good offensive tackle at 12 as well.
Yeah. That's precisely like the reasoning is that
I'm with you there.
Top 12 picks, like usually the difference between 5 and 12, I'd say it's never massive, but it's like there's a reason they're all very valuable there at the top of the draft.
Gerard said Trevor is trolling Mike by asking him if there's a team he didn't expect to be in the top 10, knowing that the Packers are sitting there at number 10. I didn't do that on purpose, but if the Packers get a top 10 pick, do you have some targets?
Well, I'd just be curious what they do at quarterback. It's going to be very interesting to see going forward the season, obviously.
If the Packers have a top 10 pick, okay, think about they would then have to be bad this entire season.
Yeah.
How likely is it, do you think Rodgers is still on that roster next year?
Unlikely. That's the thing. It's like I think he's either so upset that he's retiring, and especially if they're going to bench him to show Jordan Love down the stretch. That's just not something that's in Aaron Rodgers' vocabulary. He has no interest in riding the pines, preparing Jordan Love each week to take the snaps. He is too prideful to do that, in my opinion. So that's the case. If they end up benching him, they're crash course for a split there in Green Bay.
I'm looking at the chat. Respected Madman says, I fully expect Detroit to move up if the second overall team does not need a quarterback. And, of course, that means that Detroit wouldn't be second there as well. How likely is it that this current regime in Detroit still gets to make the pick next year if they're picking in the top 3 again?
That's tough. I would think that Brad Holmes, GM, would maybe get another year at least, because I don't think he's done anything. He hasn't been able to even make a swing yet with what he inherited there. So I think at least he gets that chance with where they were as a franchise before he came in. Coaching staff, if you continue to lose games, now obviously they had to win this past week over Green Bay. If you continue to, things go south to where you are in the top 3, top 5, and haven't shown any meaningful year-on-year growth, then I can see the coach staff not being there. But I think this front office is at least getting another shot.
I'm looking just outside the top 10 now, and you mentioned those 3 teams there. Seattle's picking at number 11. Detroit's picking at 12. Houston's picking at 13. Indianapolis sits there now at number 14. We went over it yesterday, hired Jeff Saturday to be their head coach. It seems like they are really just taking wild swings. Is this another team that has to get aggressive no matter what? I guess is what I'm saying here.
I think they will.
Because at 14, you know what I'm saying? Like,
I think they're ending up lower than 14 is the other thing.
Where do you think they end up, though? Because you know what I think is going to screw them over? They're 3-5-1. Mm-hmm. That and 1 screws you when you were trying to get lower and lower into the draft order, because that tie is half a win, essentially. Mm-hmm. So any team that you're tied with, it doesn't even go to strength of schedule. You're looking at the difference between I mean, look, Carolina's picking number 2 overall in the draft. They have 2 wins this season. And I know bye weeks are involved in everything, so that'll get sorted out. But they've got 2 wins this year. The Colts only have 1 more win than them. They have 3, and they're all the way down at 14. That's how massive of a difference this is between wins and losses. And that tie, I think, is going to screw Indianapolis over from where they want to go.
Well, seeing Sam Ehlinger play quarterback, though, I think if they start in the rest of the year, they're getting where they want to go.
Okay. All right. Let's dig into it. Let's dig into it. I just wanted to give a shout out to the Colts because we weren't going to get to talk about them during the top 10, but let's get to the mock draft here. Mike, I'm going to start with the odds. We decided that would be the case because there is a certain team that has a certain pick in this top 10, which you know very well, and I would like to see what your final selection would be there. So I'm picking for the Houston Texans at number 1 overall. I think the Houston Texans are a team that is destined for a top 3 pick, whether it is this first one here in the draft, second or third. I cannot imagine they're picking much further down the order than that. Number 1 guy, in my opinion, for a team that needs a quarterback is Bryce Young from Alabama. I understand that everybody's just going to bring up the measurables. I mean, he's barely 5'10". He's a smaller quarterback. People like to stay away from smaller quarterbacks, especially the ones that aren't super mobile, which I don't think Bryce Young's the fastest guy in the world. He's got escapability, he's got some mobility, but he's not like he's this big-time weapon with his legs like, say, Kyler Murray was when he was coming out. But the thing about Bryce Young to me is that he just truly has that it factor that other quarterbacks don't, man. I watched that Tennessee game, and even though they lost to Tennessee, time after time after time, Tennessee was in his face with pressure. They were hitting him after the play, and yet every single time it felt like when that ball left his hand, no matter how hard of a hit he was about to take, went exactly where it needed to go. When the play is breaking down and absolutely nobody else in college football could make magic happen, Bryce Young does. He's the reigning Heisman Trophy winner for a reason. He has some incredible PFF grades that we're seeing on screen there for a reason. I think he is the next franchise quarterback that we're going to see in the NFL, and I would be picking him number 1 overall to the Texans.
I am in complete agreement with you there. The height, size, whatever, arm talent's there. He works the middle of the field better than any of those, 6 foot and under quarterbacks that you worry so much about them translating to the next level that I've ever seen. And he's just tremendous at it. And you mentioned the it factor. He's going to do whatever it takes. So, yeah, I am in complete agreement with you there.
All right. Bryce Young number Who you got at number 2? Number 2 is the Carolina Panthers.
I have the Carolina Panthers then selecting Will Levis, quarterback.
Oh, you Kentucky. Did it. He did it. Oh, man. The chat was going wild before the show saying that you were going to take Levis number 1 overall. And you take him with
number 2.
Technically your number 1 pick. So
number 1 pick.
Let's hear
Carolina Panthers. It's a swing. It is a swing of the bat on a guy who has the best physical profile in this draft class. A better physical profile than anyone else in last year's draft class. I mean, he has an insane arm. He said 80 yards on the show a couple weeks back.
Yeah.
You see his tape, and I believe it. He has an absolute cannon, one of the quickest releases in the class, too. It's not one of the longer releases like some of the guys in last year's class had big arms, but had a little bit longer releases to get it there. I think Will Levis has a great tight release, and then he's a heck of an athlete. I mean, his escapability, can make plays with his legs, can actually be a value add in the run game, but they don't use that in Kentucky. It's one of the things, like, he has it, but it's almost like when Justin Fields didn't look good earlier this year in his rookie year. You got to use that threat to really tap in to those guys with the tools. And right now, Kentucky's offense is not utilizing that with Will Levis. He's still producing. His numbers are never going to look like Bryce Young's numbers, C.J. Stroud's numbers, because he's not working with that level of talent around him. But I think he is elevating the talent around him still, and I love his ability to create on his own as well. So, yeah, Will Levis, it's not, he's not a polished product. None of these guys are going to hit the ground running, though, day one and be elite NFL quarterbacks. So give me the guy who has the tools to develop.
Obviously, this is a big-time toolsy pick. I like Will Levis a lot. I really do. I think that the top 3 hype for Levis is too rich for my blood, but you can definitely see the high-end talent, see him developing that, especially that big arm. He's a fearless dude as well, tough as nails. He's a quarterback that you like back there for sure with those traits. I'm curious, do you see him as somebody who you would really want him to kind of slow, I guess, like, what am I trying to say here? Not start right away is essentially what I'm trying to say.
No, I think he could start right away. Okay. I think his obviously he's played under 2 different NFL offensive coordinators the last 2 years. I think like his footwork and the little things that maybe you don't want a guy coming in and having to learn on the fly, he can already do. That doesn't mean he's going to be great right away, but I think it's going to be he's going to get a lot of Josh Allen comps, but it's going to be that's how you're going to have to introduce him to the NFL is just a trial by fire. Just get him in the league as quick as possible, or into your offense as quick as possible, having full control over it, and then see what he can do in that to try to tailor that offense over the years to his strengths.
Why Big Jordan is in the chat, and he is furious because I think it looks like he thinks Matt Corral is better than Will Levis.
Well,
he's Matt Corral stan.
Oh, wow. That's a weird hill to die on. Corral was up. It was not NFL ready, to say the least.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to give you a chance to address it. Las Vegas Raiders are up at number 3, and I'm going to go triple quarterback here. They're going to need it. Look, if the Raiders are picking number 3 overall in the draft, there's an out in Derek Carr's contract. They're either going to trade him, they're going to cut him, they're going to move on from him. That's what we're looking at here. Shoot, Josh McDaniels might not even be the head coach next year if it goes so poorly that they're picking number 3 overall. I'm not so sure that's going to be the case, but no matter what, big changes will be coming in Las Vegas if they pick number 3 overall, including them getting C.J. Stroud, Ohio State's quarterback here. When I went into summer scouting, I really thought that Stroud was just going to be a product of the Ohio State system, that he was just going to be a product of these wide receivers are wide open. They've been wide open for the last 5 or 6 years. I know that the talent pool of what they have versus their opponents is often very wide, or the talent gap, I should say, is very wide. But you know what? Stroud's good. I really do like C.J. Stroud. I think the fundamentals are great with him. I love the wide base that he has every time that he's throwing the ball. I think he's got a big arm. I think he's got a good release. I think everything that he does just feels very clean. Now, I don't think he is anything close out of structure to what Bryce Young is. And that's why it is not really a debate for me between these 2 guys. But I still think Stroud's a really nice quarterback prospect. I still think he can be a guy who can be a long-time starter for a team. Is it going to look as easy as it has at Ohio State? No, definitely not. The talent gap in the NFL is much, much smaller. So there's going to be an adjustment period there for C.J. Stroud. But he's still got really nice arm talent. I think he's got, like I said, I think he's got great fundamentals. And because of that, you see a really tight spiral when he throws the ball. You see really good accuracy and ball placement when things are working out for him. So when you keep him clean, when you keep him in structure, he's shown that he could be a really nice quarterback prospect. And I think that he'd be a worthwhile pick for them in the top 5.
Yeah, like the only sort of, I don't say the only knocks, but the biggest worry is just that it's one of those Zach Wilson-esque situations there that he's working with, where it's so nice that he doesn't have to develop good habits at quarterback. He can almost develop bad habits.
He's got better habits than Wilson did.
Better habits than Wilson, better habits than Fields. But he is in such a situation that it's like it can change your speed, it can change your eyes, it can change a lot of plays, sort of aspects to your game that to a detriment when projecting to the NFL.
Denzel says Will Levis is Tim Tebow with a better arm. Damn. That's a wild take. Jared said, I feel bad for anyone who gets drafted by Las Vegas right now. I think a lot of people probably agree with you. Jeff says, Carr to Tampa Bay after Brady goes to Vegas or San Francisco. Absolutely not. We're rejecting that. We're absolutely rejecting that. BJ says, best touch passer in the NFL. Is he talking about C.J. Stroud? I think he's talking about C.J. Stroud. Nathan says, love the Zach Wilson comp. I do too. That's actually a good way to set it up. I don't think he's in as bad of shape as Wilson was, because clearly we're still seeing it with Wilson. These are things that he is really having to get over, and I don't think it's that bad, but I do think the Ohio State bubble, if you will, makes things easier on quarterbacks. So even though you don't want to, guys like Quell in the comments are saying like, hey, don't scout the helmet, scout the player.
Yeah.
You do want to do that, but you also do have to take situations into account, because these guys are learning among certain situations, and let's face it, it's easier at Ohio State. They have more talented players than most of the teams they go up against. So that's just kind of the natural tendencies that they end up creating. So what about you at number 4? We've got 3 quarterbacks off the board. I can't imagine another quarterback's coming off the board here with the Steelers at number 4.
No, I think the quarterback drop-off fairly steep after those top 3. So at number 4, we're going to go Steelers drafting Will Anderson, the Alabama edge rusher. I could see an argument for Jalen Carter here. Their interior's taking some hits, with Stephon Tuitt retiring in recent years. But it's the Anderson's type of talent that you don't pass up. I think the shelf life of edge versus shelf life of interior is a lot longer on the edge, and I also think that those guys have a sort of track record of producing earlier in their NFL careers than defensive tackles do. So that's why I lean edge, but I do think they're similarly tiered in terms of talent at their respective positions.
Man, Will Anderson, TJ Watt,
it's tough.
Cam Hayward.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Well, I mean,
probably try to run the ball.
That's it. That's all you can do, man. I think that would be a scary, scary sight. But as we talked about right before we started this draft, chances the Steelers could even be a candidate to trade back as well. So I think you take Will Anderson if you're sitting in this spot for Pittsburgh. I know Pittsburgh needs offensive line too. I don't know if they'd pick an offensive lineman in the top 5 over guys like a potential quarterback selection, a Will Anderson and Jalen Carter. But they do need offensive line. So if the Steelers do end up winning a couple more games, they're picking more towards closer to 10 than they are 1. I could see them going for an offensive lineman, but I agree with you that Will Anderson and the idea of him on the other side of TJ Watt is tough to pass up. Detroit Lions at number 5. I feel bad for the Lions in this scenario. We've already got 3 quarterbacks off the board. I can't even reach and pick Levis for them at number 5. So I'm going to go with the best player available. I'm going to go with the best player on the board. You got to figure out quarterback some other way. I go Jalen Carter here. Defensive line for the Lions, still a work in progress. Yes, they invested a high pick in Aiden Hutchinson last year, but they need some more to infuse into that. If they get themselves Jalen Carter, all of a sudden they're getting one of the best overall players in all of college football over the last 2 years. 89.8 PFF grade, 86.7 pass rushing grade, 78 run defense grade. But man, this dude is strong as an ox. He is so explosive off of the snap as well. That Tennessee game was just littered with pressures all over the place from Jalen Carter. In fact, Mike, I saw a play where he was lined up, I believe as a 3-tech defensive tackle, and they had him going up against the guard. The center was also kind of giving him some extra looks in case he needed help. He did need help. He splits him, and the running back behind them even had to come in and try to block him, and yet Jalen Carter, through a triple team, still recorded a pressure on that play. That's what we're talking about. That's the kind of freak that we're talking about on the interior here. Even on last year's national championship winning defensive line for Georgia, which held a future number 1 overall pick in Trayvon Walker, people said that Jalen Carter was the best guy on that defensive line. I believe it. So I got him going number 5 overall to the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I'd put him, in the annals of PFF college grading, since we've been doing this since 2015 draft. I'd put him right there with Quinnen Williams as the top DTs we've scouted. He probably has better physical profile even than a Quinnen Williams in terms of size, in terms of length, in terms of play strength. Quinnen probably more productive at the collegiate level, but Jalen Carter was the best defensive lineman on Georgia last year. He had the highest pass rushing grade last year when they had 5 probably first rounders on that defensive line. So yeah, he's going top 5, top 6, and he's a very safe pick, I'd say.
Elliot's saying, I don't know if interior defensive line is their issue. McNeil and Buggs are fine. I think McNeil's nice, but let's be real. I mean, if you could
would you love a good defensive line? You would love a good defensive line.
I think you would love to upgrade the Detroit Lions defensive line. I think they do need interior defensive line help no matter what. Even if you look at the guys there and say, okay, they've got some nice plays. I mean, Jalen Carter would give you the excellent plays. He would take things to the next level. Okay, who you got at number 6?
And it goes to speak to the Lions. It's you can never really have enough defensive linemen, as we're going to see with this Eagles pick, where they go Clemson defensive end Myles Murphy, because the Eagles, as pretty much everyone and their mother seeing this year, load up on defensive linemen. They're happy to draft a Jordan Davis with the top 15 pick to just have him play 20 snaps a game. Because in those 20 snaps a game, he's going to be dominant, and that's what you want on your defensive line. You want impenetrability. Myles Murphy can bring you that 6'5", 275-pounder. He's this class's version of Trayvon Walker, I'll say, where maybe it's not perfect already, but he is an absolute freak of nature. Was actually the 3rd-ranked freak on Bruce Feldman's preseason freaks list because at that size, he had a 35-inch vertical and ran in the 4.5s and the 40. Super powerful dude. Not quite put together completely as a pass rusher. Clemson, though, with that defense, how it's been schemed the past couple of years, they didn't care. Like, they didn't use him in that one-on-one pass rushing role.
Same with Brzee.
Yeah, they didn't use either of those guys in that, unfortunately. But both are absurdly talented. And it's the NFL draft. These guys are young. If you can, 2 or 3 years from now is what you're banking on. I will bank on that guy's tools translating to a high-end NFL edge rusher.
Yeah, him and Brzee were obviously the Clemson D-line duo there that a lot of people were back and forth on. It felt like it was pretty polarizing between the two just because you look at their traits and you say, okay, this is kind of what I want from you in like a pass rush profile, and you collapse in the pocket, really get into the backfield. And Clemson just didn't always ask them to do that. It's not like it was a never thing. There's plenty of snaps of it, but it just didn't happen as regularly. I guess I'm talking more from Brzee as well, who was former #1 overall recruit in the country, an incredibly athletic interior defensive tackle. But even Myles Murphy sometimes, he'd be the guy who was doing the dirty work along the defensive line where, hey, he's taking up a block or two to free up the linebackers to get some free tackles behind him. That's a good plan, but you should also scheme some stuff up for Myles Murphy a little bit more because he's incredibly talented. I've got the Arizona Cardinals coming up next at number 7. Mike, a little trivia for you, a little extra trivia. Sorry, Quinn, if I'm stepping on your toes.
Go right ahead.
Can you tell me the last time the Arizona Cardinals drafted a offensive lineman in rounds 1 or 2 of the NFL draft? It's for the chat, too, because I know there's a little bit of a delay, but you guys can guess, too.
I think it was, I'm trying to think, Josh Jones was 3rd rounder.
So he was a 3rd rounder.
It's probably DJ Humphries, right?
It was DJ Humphries. 2015.
Yuck. Yeah,
it has been since 2015 that they have drafted any trench player with one of their top 2 picks. It's crazy. It has to stop. Mm-hmm. The madness has to stop. And it stops here at number 7 overall. I've got him taking Northwestern offensive tackle, Peter Skoronski. I went into this season after doing summer scouting, and I was like, Skoronski might be a little bit limited athletically. He's not the most explosive guy, but you love his tape. It just feels like he is such a natural for an offensive lineman. He understands so much of what's going on. He knows how to position himself. He knows where the hands go. He knows how to redirect. He doesn't panic. He's calm. He's confident. A lot of people are like, maybe he's more built for a guard because of his athleticism, maybe his arm length. Dude, this guy can win a tackle. Look at that. 93.1 pass blocking grade so far this season. 86.1 overall grade. Mike, he has played 694 snaps at left tackle this year. And he has allowed 1 sack, 5 pressures. That's it. This guy has been an absolute wall on the left side of the offensive line. And you know what? For the Cardinals, maybe you'd say maybe they got some prospects at offensive tackle that might be okay at offensive tackle. If you want to play him at guard, that's fine. Because I think they got free agents coming up at all 3 positions on the offensive line. You're not going to have him play center. But you know what I mean? It's almost like a Tyler Smith strategy with what the Cowboys did when they drafted Tyler Smith. It's like, all right, well, we could kind of plug you in wherever. We could plug you in at guard. We know you're going to play well at guard. They've ended up having to play him at left tackle. But I think Skoronski has just shown that he understands O-line play. He is a plug-and-play offensive lineman, and you just don't get many of those guys coming through the draft.
Yeah, and from a team-building perspective, I would love if the Cardinals took a little bit of a page out of Baltimore's playbook and how much they've invested. Obviously, Baltimore's done a lot in terms of signing guys in free agency to build up that offensive line. Also, obviously, used a first-round pick, and Tyler Linderbaum has been playing fantastic for them. But when you have that dominant O-line with the mobile quarterback, that gives you such a high floor week to week, whereas the Cardinals have gone the opposite way. They say, we have a mobile quarterback. Hey, Kyler, you figure it out behind this kind of shitty offensive line. Like we believe that you can make plays on your own, so we're not going to invest in the offensive line in front of you, which, yeah, you can get by, but then you're going to be as inconsistent as you have been this year, whereas if you just build up that O-line, make it a top 5 to 10 unit in the NFL, you are going to put up points week in and week out because it's so difficult to defend with a mobile quarterback like Kyler Murray.
Gustavo says the Cardinals are going to draft another linebacker.
Yeah, I mean, I bet they would draft Bijan Robinson here, Texas running back, before they draft Pierce Skronsky. I would bet good money if the same regime stays in place.
We're trying to be hopeful. We're trying to be hopeful here, Mike. We want him to make the right move. Trevor in the chat says Olu Fashanu, the offensive tackle from Penn State. Yeah, he's very good. He is very good as well. His stock is absolutely on the rise. People are getting some more eyes on him for sure. BJ saying that Steve Keim is a draft magician. That's one title for him.
He made a lot of picks disappear.
He did? Oh, man, there it is. All right, who you got at number 8?
At number 8,
Jacksonville Jaguars.
Going with, obviously there's a number of positions you could need at this point, but I'm going with the one position that stands out to me above the rest for them, wide receiver. That guy, they need a bucket getter. To me, Quentin Johnston, the TCU wide receiver, can be that guy. Maybe not year one. He's probably not the polished year one impact guy we've come to expect and see from Drake London, Garrett Wilson this past year, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle the year prior, Devontae Smith. I'm not putting him in that conversation, but his physical ability is very much not only in that conversation, it's right at the top of that conversation. At 6'4", 215 pounds. He's going to run probably in the low 4.4s, maybe high 4.3s.
Yeah.
40-plus inch vertical. Like, the guy can get off the ground, be your contested catch guy that Trevor Lawrence so desperately needs. Because going back to his college days at Clemson, he loves to throw those go balls. He loves to throw those back shoulder balls. He loves to throw those hip-to-hip, not really open routes. But he trusts his ball placement as receivers to get it. You think about T. Higgins and all he produced in that Clemson offense. Quentin Johnston is that to a T. And then he's also your throw a screen to him on the outside guy, because after the catch, at his size, he's Brandon Marshall-esque. Like, he is as good as it gets in terms of with the ball in his hands. Already 15 broken tackles on 42 catches this season for Quentin Johnston.
Look, he was my number one wide receiver going into this season, and simply it wasn't based on stats. He hasn't had a ton of stats. It's not like you can look at the production and say, yeah, there's a slam dunk top 10 wide receiver kind of a pick like you were saying. But he looks more athletic than it feels like the rest of the top of this class does. You look at guys like Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith and Jigba, right? Keyshawn Butte, maybe A.T. Perry if you like him, right? Like, there's a lot of guys who are in this group and you say, okay, they do a lot of things well, but it's not like there's this great athlete that I'm betting on here. It's more savviness, more smoothness than it is explosiveness. Quentin Johnston has explosiveness. So that's the trait that I want to bet on, especially what we've seen this year as a true deep threat receiver, a guy who's going to go up and get contested catches as well. So vertical threat, would love to see Trevor Lawrence get this kind of a player. Brings us to number 9 overall, the Chicago Bears. I'm looking at the defensive side of the ball, and I know they need a wide receiver. I know they need some more explosive playmakers in the passing game, but I just kind of said that Quentin Johnston would have really been the only guy that I would have bet on for a top 10 pick, so you just took him off the board there. I'm going to go with defensive line. Okay, Robert Quinn's out of there. I think they got some young guys that they like, but I want to get some more pass rush in there. This might be a little bit rich for some people's blood, but I love Jared Verse, man. The edge rusher from Florida State. Played at Albany over the last couple of years. Now he's at Florida State. Showed immediately right out of the gate that he was not afraid of this upper level of competition. When he was fully healthy at the beginning of the year, had 8 pressures, 2.5 sacks against LSU in that second game of the season. 6'4", 255 pounds, and I think he's just scratching the surface. He's been a little hurt this year, so his numbers aren't that great, but still leads the ACC in tackles for loss, still leads the team in sacks. I think this guy's potential is through the roof. Might it take a little bit, maybe a year and a half for him to really catch fire in the NFL? That might be the case, but I just look at how dominant this player was at Albany at the FCS level, how dominant he was at the beginning of his career with Florida State earlier this year, and I've got to think that there's just more in the tank there. With those reps, that explosiveness, how fast and violent the hands are, and he's learning more moves, he's learning how to go up against better competition. I like Jared Verse a lot, so I'm going to take him in the top 10 here as a good pass rusher for the Chicago Bears.
I do as well. I obviously wish we could have seen more of him fully healthy, and hopefully we'll get more so as the season wears on. But obviously had an ankle injury that he's been playing through, actually. But that LSU game, the LSU tape, what he put on there, 7 pressures, 2 sacks, that was top 10 pick worthy. It truly was. I think he's going to go to the combine and maybe even break like 4.5. That's how explosive and fast this guy is. So very excited to see what he does. But I would have gone with who I'm going to go with now because of the Bears' need at 3 technique, Matty Eberflus's defense, how much they wanted that 3 technique last offseason. I think this guy can be a game changer at that position in the NFL. It's Brian Brzee.
For your Packers.
For the Packers. I am going Brian Brzee of the Green Bay Packers.
Okay, now Brian Brzee goes off the board. The chat was kind of freaking out that I didn't pick Brzee for the Bears, so I'm glad that you got him off the board here.
And he is just that different caliber of dude. 6'5", 310. One of my favorite things about him is you watch him on the defensive line, and you could like swear he's an edge rusher at that size because he's so put together despite being 310. Like there's nothing hanging over his belt there at defensive tackle like a lot of other guys. He is holding it like an edge rusher would hold it, and that's why he has been so productive over the course of his career. Obviously dealing with an ACL tear that he had in 2021 coming off. Still a bit rough around the edges because of that. But you see the pass rushing grade there. You see him coming on strong here this season to where I'm still betting I'm going to go top 10 in this NFL draft.
Is this like a reverse psychology thing? Because the past few years you've had the Packers picking wide receivers, and so you're going to go with the trenches in hopes that like secretly they do try to pick
what other wide receiver would you pick here?
That's it.
So some people obviously in the chat, a lot of people are shouting out the Bears need to give Justin Fields help, and I agree. I totally agree. I think that needs to be a major emphasis for the offseason is continuing to get him more playmakers, some better offensive linemen. People shouted up Paris Johnson, Jordan Addison, but are those guys worth it at that point? Maybe they will be, I guess, at the end of this cycle, but I just didn't see it right there.
No,
That's why I went first.
I agree. It's still talent, especially when you're in the top 10. You really can't be. I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of top 10 teams make is like trying to shoehorn a position that they need, and then you reach for a different talent. Like, no, if you had a top 10 pick, that means you're bad. Unless you trade it for like the Eagles. That is true. It means you're not good. It means there's not one position that's putting you over the hump. So at that rate, like you just can't whiff. You can't go out of that draft with a top 10 pick that you're like, iffy on what kind of impact he makes. It's like, no, I want a guy who I know will be a good football player. It's Brian Brzee.
No John Rosses.
And yeah, exactly.
Got a lot of Jordan Addison love in the chat. I got to say, the chat is getting on us for not getting Jordan Addison in the top 10 here for the Chicago Bears or the Green Bay Packers. Could have been decent. I mean, like, they need wide receivers, so it could have been a decent landing spot for it. But ultimately, this is how the top 10 went. For the Houston Texans, I took Bryce Young. For the Carolina Panthers, you took Will Levis. For the Las Vegas Raiders, C.J. Stroud. Steelers, you gave him Will Anderson. I gave the Lions Jalen Carter at 5. You gave the Eagles Miles Murphy at 6. You gave the Cardinals, an offensive lineman, Peter Skoronski at number 7. Jags, you went with Quentin Johnston. Love that fit. Bears, I went Jared Verse at number 9. And then for the Packers at number 10, you went Brian Brzee here for this new and updated top 10 for the 2023 NFL Draft. Always a good time, Mike. Always a good time.
I like how we didn't even have the Raiders logo up there. They're just, no one wants to be the Raiders right now.
I didn't notice that there. Yeah, we got to throw. Hey, you know what? I would say it's disrespect, but maybe it's representation. Maybe, hey, it's like, hey, you got to win a game in order to get the logo up there.
Yeah,
it's almost like you're like teaching a child. Like, hey, you got to win a game or else you don't get the logo up there.
Patches off the jersey. Patches off the jersey. You don't get to wear them.
Well, all right. It's been election season for the last couple of weeks, last couple of months. Obviously, yesterday was election day, so we're in the campaign mood. We're in a little bit of a political mood, and we're going to do so with, of course, an NFL twist. There are 2 head coaching vacancies in the NFL right now, the Indianapolis Colts and the Carolina Panthers. And so Mike and I are going to give you our campaign speeches, which you guys need to decide who does the better job. I'm going to cape for the Carolina Panthers and my rebuilding strategy being the best situation in the NFL. Mike's going to do the same for the Indianapolis Colts. Y'all watch it. Let us know whose campaign you would invest in after you see him.
And now, please welcome to the stage your next head coach-elect of the Carolina Panthers, Trevor Sikkema.
My fellow Americans, it's once again time to come together as one great nation to save football in the great southern city of Charlotte, North Carolina. Right now, their home team, the Carolina Panthers, are a ship without a captain. If voted head coach, I intend to show you why this can be one of the fastest rebuilds in league history. When I look at the Panthers, I don't see a barren wasteland and a long rebuild. I see hope. I see talent. And I see draft picks. Under my leadership, sending day 2 picks for quarterbacks who clearly have proven they aren't franchise caliber will be a thing of the distant past. Instead, with the top 3 pick that we are guaranteed to have, I intend to walk away from the draft with one of either Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. No more bridge quarterbacks. We will build our offense around a young cornerstone, and they will quickly reveal the strengths of this young roster. I also promise to cut unnecessary spending. I understand that currently sitting $1 million over the cap with $28 million in dead cap could look bad. Scared that we could never get out, wondering how we ever got here in the first place. But through the Shaq Thompson Act, I propose that we pay our respects and goodbyes to a great player, but in doing so, saving $13 million on the cap, which will bring in plenty of new talent to Carolina. Maybe an offensive lineman in free agency like Elgton Jenkins, Isaiah Wynn, or Dalton Reisner. Speaking of offensive linemen, if elected head coach, there will be an agreement in place where all offensive linemen in Carolina will be sponsored by a local barbecue place to make sure they are the greatest O-line in the NFL, fed and fueled right here in our backyard. I believe in the core of this roster. J.C. Horn, DJ Moore, Derek Brown, Jeremy Chin, Brian Burns. I mean, don't get me wrong, if elected, I'm immediately going to call up Les Snead and see if that deal is still on the table to get Brian Burns for 3 top 50 picks. But if not, then I still believe. This is the best rebuilding franchise in the NFL, and I intend to show you why. Keep pounding.
And now, please welcome to the stage your next head coach-elect of the Indianapolis Colts, Mike Renner.
My fellow Hoosiers, we are at a crossroads. Our great franchise has been wallowing in mediocrity for far too long, and that is unacceptable. Under my leadership, that will change. With no coaching or front office experience at any level of football to speak of, I feel I am perfectly qualified to lead this franchise as recent events have shown. The people of this great state need a bold direction, and I am here to provide that. With that, I propose the 3 Ps of team building that, if elected, will permeate through everything the Indianapolis Colts do. The first P, performance evaluation. Everyone in this organization will be a talent evaluator, and an honest one. We need to know where we stand compared to the rest of the league to know how to get to the top. And right now, we suck. That means we will be giving every young player on this roster an opportunity to prove themselves through the rest of the season and giving our veterans a much needed tax break. If some see that as tanking or trying not to win, so be it. But I did not come here to hang AFC finalist banners. The second P is people. Not everyone in this organization has to be a born leader, but there are certain positions where that is a prerequisite. We have a born leader on offense in Quentin Nelson. We have a born leader in defense in Darius Leonard. We do not have a born leader at the most important position on the football field. And it is my promise that that will change next spring. We will be drafting a franchise quarterback. The next Peyton Manning, the next Andrew Luck, he will be walking through that door next fall. The third P is process. My promise to you is that this organization will never be satisfied. When we hoist that Lombardi trophy, I will be back at work the next day trying to figure out ways that we can get better as an organization. I know the term analytics gets a bad rap, but think of it as edges. When everyone is working with the same amount of money on the salary cap, that is a must to find those edges. And let me tell you this, trading a first-round pick for Carson Wentz is not an edge. And it is something we will not be doing anytime soon here in Indianapolis. So with those 3 Ps, performance evaluation, people, and process, we can get back to our former glory as the upper quartile of the upper quartile in the NFL and eventual Super Bowl champions. Thank you. I love you. Now where's that fucking boot?
The baby thing got me at the end.
Yeah.
You were. I didn't think you were gonna go that hard into the baby bit, and you did.
You gotta kiss the baby.
You're ready to be a politician with the baby
I could be
kiss.
president with that.
I will say, clearly, the loudest roar you got was when you said that we suck.
Yeah, I mean, gotta be realistic with the fans. That's how you gain favor.
No, it's look, that was great.
To be a used car salesman, lying to them.
Now y'all gotta vote. You all gotta vote. Whose campaign was more inspiring? Whose campaign would you invest in? Who do you think is going to do the better job? Me with the Carolina Panthers or Mike with the Indianapolis Colts? We would love to hear from you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. We got another segment that we know you guys enjoy. We did this a couple of weeks ago. We're bringing it back because somebody in the chat said that we got to bring it back. Stone, our producer behind the scenes, he was very excited to bring this one back. It's drip or skip, baby.
Skip.
It's drip or skip. We're going to be taking a look at some fashion choices from around the NFL, some iconic pre-game fashion choices. And Mike and I are going to tell you guys whether we think it's a drip and we'd wear it, or it's got to be a skip. We got to go back to the drawing board. We got to figure something else out.
Yeah, I feel about more qualified to do this than I do to talk about football.
A presidential. I don't know, man. I don't know, man. You kissed that baby pretty great.
Yeah.
You had good form on that one.
I was about to say I feel qualified to kiss babies, but that's a weird thing to say.
That is a weird thing to say. You probably shouldn't put that out on the show. All right, drip or skip? Who we got as the first one? What are you doing here? Chat, you got to get in on this too. Ooh, Stephon. Okay, so this is Stephon Diggs. How do we feel? It's almost like woodland camo on the bottom, urban digital camo on the top.
I was gonna say, that looks like how a 4-year-old who's the third son in Western Kentucky would dress. Besides the chain.
It is Veterans Day on Friday. Keep that in mind. So thank you, Stephon, for your service.
Stephon. I don't think.
I kind of like it though. I'll be honest.
Here's the thing. I couldn't pull it off. Stephon might.
I wasn't gonna say it, but yeah.
I can't pull that off. That's too baggy for me. I can't do that baggy clothes. I feel like some people in the high fashion industry are going after more like baggy, loose fitting clothes, which comfort, great, love it, but it just doesn't show off the frame nearly as much. So
I like it.
I can't do it. You like it?
Yeah, I'll say drip.
What about is that a beanie he's got in the left hand?
That I'm not sure of. If that's that looks like a beanie.
Is it a beanie?
Looks like one of those big dumb beanies, which are the worst type of beanie. I'm not a beanie guy to begin with, but those are the worst ones.
I'm skipping this one.
Okay.
You're dripping this one?
Dripping that one.
All right. I think we've got. I think we're 50-50 here. We're also 50-50 on our Carolina and Indianapolis thing. We're literally 50-50 on it. Wow. Okay. Wow. Walt's in the chat. Walt, you missed the entire top 10, buddy. You got to go back and watch the show at the chat champ. Okay, so I think we've got
people are making multiple accounts to vote for you. I demand an investigation.
I texted all my. Yeah, look. You said at the top of the show, some people vote twice. We're voting twice out here. We're voting twice. All right, what's the next one for drip or skip?
Ooh, Eli Apple, almost looking like a Patagonia. That looks like the thing Quinn wears on the rag.
Hold on, Alex said I don't think Trevor would be able to pull
right now.
No, Quinn actually has it on. Forgot.
I look like shit today though. It's laundry.
Whoa!
Green underneath.
Okay, all right. So Eli Apple, is it drip or skip? Quinn?
Yeah, Quinn, this is very
skip?
qualified to talk about this one.
I mean, I would wear that. Yeah.
Okay.
I would
all right.
that.
So it's drip. So Quinn's got it for a drip. I'm going heavy skip. Sorry.
Let's see it again. Let's see this thing again.
I can't do those color combos, man. I just can't do it. Maybe if it was some different color combos, like if it was like a black and blue and gold, or like a.
See, I'm cool with it. I think it's a drip.
Blue and white. Like even if it was mainly blue, maybe a little bit of white. I can't do the colors. I like the concept. I
know what you mean.
I like where his head's at. I like where his head's at. But I'm going skip. I'm going skip.
I say drip.
Jacoby's going drip. Williams going skip. Adams going drip. Wow, Trevor says big drip. Jared says drip. A lot of you guys are into it. Alex said, if his grandma made it for him, then it's a drip. I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. Patrick also said, 1,000% grandma approved drip. All right, what's the next one? What do we got next? Ooh, this is Buda Baker. Yo, this is drip. 100%. This is clean. Come on. Look at it. I get it, like the no undershirts a little.
That part.
It's aggressive, but he's jacked. Right? Like,
yeah.
He's in shape. If you're not in shape and you're trying to pull off no shirt suit, it doesn't look good. But my man's got the ice going around. He's got the black shades up top. He's got the black shoes on the bottom. He's got the ice around his neck. He's got the ice on the wrist. It's all very symmetrical. It's all very coordinated. This is heavy drip here.
It's close. Anytime, though, as a man, I can see below your pecs. That's a skip for me.
It's a bold move. You would do it.
No, I would not.
You would do it.
I've never done it.
If you were getting drafted to the NFL, you'd have sunglasses on. And
maybe sunglasses, but not. You would not see the bottom of my pecs. To me, it's a hey, check out how jacked I am move. And it's just never a good move. It's a bad look.
I feel like your entire life is about look how jacked I am.
No.
All right, I'm saying drip. You're saying skip. A lot of people in the chat are saying this is a drip. I love this one. What's the next one? Clyde Edwards-Helaire is this next one. Wow.
That's cultural appropriation. That's a hard skip.
There's a lot going on here. I'm inspired by the
you know what that
multiple
reminds
shades of denim, though.
Have you seen?
Does he have to? Do the jeans match? We see a little bit under. Like, are the jeans also matching this?
I think so. It reminds me. Have you seen Rush Hour 2? That's like Don Cheadle owning the Chinese restaurant in Rush Hour 2.
I don't think I've ever seen Rush Hour 2. Actually,
that's a skip.
I definitely could not pull this one off. So you know what, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, if he can, good on him. I certainly cannot here. Okay, what's the next one? Aaron Donald's next one. Aaron Donald, what do we got for Aaron Donald? All right, this is classic, okay? Big white tee, giant chain, little shirt over the top, not buttoned.
He looks like Suge Knight with a full head of hair.
Yeah.
I feel like that's good.
He's looking like he looks like a Lego man with the top there. Like the top is going straight from the shoulders down. Like that's an outfit a Lego guy would wear. I'm not a fan. It's just the angles are off. Something about it's off.
You know what? I'm gonna say that this is drip because of the power move that is the luggage next to him.
Yeah.
It's no backpack. It's no, It's no duffel bag. It's a power rolling luggage piece. What an accessory.
I have been looking into ditching a backpack for just luggage. Just like if you carry around something like that. That is your.
All right.
Chris Collinsworth does that. Instead of, he's.
And that's why he's our fearless leader.
Yeah. Once you get to a certain age, you can't wear a backpack anymore.
That's true.
And so it's just more convenient to just be able to roll a suitcase around.
That's true.
So
no, I'm going drip. I'm going drip for the luggage.
I'm going skip though.
Okay, all right. All right, we got two more. What do we got here? DK Metcalf. See, this is along the similar lines of Buda Baker.
You're seeing lower pec.
So if you did, the lower pec does come into effect here. Yeah, but again, like DK's jacked. If you're that in shape, can't you just show it off?
Yeah,
do whatever?
I mean, it obviously looks better when you're that in shape.
The man was shirtless for the combine interview.
Yeah, that just there's no cohesiveness there. Top, bottom, shoes, bag. It just.
I feel like I'd wear this exact fit getting off the plane in Cancun. It's Cancun fit.
It's
Cancun fit.
It is a warm weather fit.
That's true. They probably have to be shorts.
That's still a skip.
Quinn's right here. They probably have to be shorts. But if you just cut those shorts, shoot, give me some scissors. I'll do it myself. We can get a homemade Cancun outfit. I'm going drip. Got to respect it. Especially the power moves. You got the AirPods in there.
That outfit had to cost though like upwards of $10,000.
Oh, I don't even want to talk about that. We can't even talk about that. Last one. What was our last one? Juju Smith-Schuster. Interesting. Speaking of going to Cancun.
It looks like he's skiing in downtown LA.
You know what? I've got to go skip here.
That's a hard skip.
I like the colors. I do. I think the colors are appealing. But wearing the ski goggles to the side.
That's what did it for you? That's the one.
It's tough.
You just had them straight.
It's tough.
That'd be a drip.
It's tough. Well, if it's straight, then it might be like a bit.
Yeah.
But now it's clearly like this is kind of part of the outfit, and I can't get along with it. I can't do it. Can't do it. Sorry, Juju. I like the color concept. I really do. We just got to go back to the drawing board, and we got to. If he would have been actually wearing the goggles, I probably would have given him a drip. I'm gonna be honest with you.
There's no way to salvage that one in my eyes. There's nothing he could wear those differently other than if he didn't wear them at all.
It's like when you wear a visor to the side. I can't do it. I've never been about it. In all those like NFL Street video games, when you could like put a hat accessory on and be like, do you want to wear your visor front, side, or back? I'm like, if it's ever side, I mean, we gotta get out of here, my guy. So I gotta keep the principle the same. I gotta keep the core principles the same. All right, there we go. That's it for Trevor Skip. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. That was requested by you guys to chat, so we brought it back for you. Mike, let's get the people out of here with some locks of the week when you look at the upcoming slate of games this weekend, including Thursday. I'll give you Thursday football as well if you want to vote for that. What is your lock of the week this week?
Yeah, as the hopeful leader of the Colts, but not yet. I am not banking on them scoring. They have looked like ass offensively in recent weeks. It's putting that kindly. Have scored a grand total of 29 points over the last 3 games, and I'm banking on the under this week, going to Las Vegas to play the Raiders. So 42.5 there.
The app doesn't like it. App doesn't like it at all. Giving it an F. Hate to see that.
I like it.
I know you like it. What you're seeing on the screen is the beautiful PFF app. If you guys don't have it yet, go to the Apple App Store, type Pro Football Focus PFF, and you can get the very best of PFF.com right in the palm of your hand, including the betting dashboard that you guys see right there. I said it yesterday, and I have to continue the trend here. Seahawks are getting 2.5 points against the Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are not a good football team. They're playing in Germany. Who knows what's going to happen? Geno Smith's a man of culture. I think he's a man of the world, man of mystery. He's going to get the dub. He's going to get the dub here.
Okay. Yeah.
I think they're going to win outright.
You don't think the drive, the embrace, you don't think we see a new Bucs team?
We didn't. Here's the thing. We didn't last week.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, but after that.
No.
Okay.
No. Believe it when I see it. Unfortunately, I will believe it when I see it.
Oh, the votes were cast.
What were they?
50% to 49%.
What? Hold on. Well, where's the math?
Indy.
What? Hold on. Where's the math?
Well, you know how they always put on the political graphics like plus minus 1%.
Yeah.
We're accounting for
Who screwed me over here?
I don't know.
Where's the 1%?
One vote screwed you over. It must have
This is BS.
Must have been 51 to 50.
The election was rigged.
You had poor voter turnout.
What do you had? We're at 49% and 50%. Where's the other 1%? Mike, what'd you do with it?
YouTube. Blame.
Did you put it in a box? Did you not have them count it?
I had my voting algorithm instead of.
Unbelievable. All right,
It is wild though.
What's the answer for? I'm calling YouTube right now. I want this win. I absolutely want this win. Hopeful Lions fan says rigged. PFF's account says rigged. Williams says revote. Absolutely revote. What is this?
Wow, I didn't know a lot of election deniers were in this.
Yeah, this election. To be very clear. All right, Quinn, what is our answer for question of the day? What are the teams that have had the most number 1 overall draft picks in NFL history? It's 7 apiece. What's our final guess here?
I'm going to go, I think Colts and Lions. That's my final.
Okay, I'll go Browns and I'll go Browns and Lions. I'll go Browns and Lions.
All right.
I'll go Browns and Lions. Who is it?
Colts was 1. So it's 7. Colts was 1. They had a bunch in Baltimore, and then obviously in Indy.
Yeah.
Rams is the other.
Oh,
1 in
Rams.
Cleveland back in 1938. Who could forget that? And then split between LA and
Yeah.
Interesting.
St. Louis.
All right, there we go. Did anybody in the chat Anybody in the chat get it right?
Daniel Sauter, he got it, so he's our chat champ. Boom. He also on the Stephon Diggs. Drip or skip.
Yeah.
He said, "Where's the picture?" or "I can't see anything." He threw out a camouflage joke. I remember. I don't remember his, but I fucking love camo jokes, man. It's very juvenile of me, but I can't resist a good camo joke.
All right, Daniel. Well, not just for getting the question right, but also for the good camo joke. And on top of all that, Daniel's always in the chat. He's always getting people pumped up for the show, which we always really appreciate. So this is a very worthy crown for our chat champ of the day. Appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you had a lot of fun watching the mock draft. Specifically, if you got any takes, we'd love to hear from you. You commented here in the chat, but you can get in the comment section as well on YouTube and tell us what picks you would have rather seen teams make. If you liked a certain selection, whatever it is, tell us about your team outlook as well. For Trevor Sikkema, that is Mike Renner. For everybody in the production booth, thank you so much for watching It Choose Football. We will be back same time tomorrow for a little trivia action. We'll see you guys then.
It's not about politics, it's about football.
This is a simple game.
We're going to run the ball, and we're going to pass the ball. He's just going to play football, really.
How good of a football player are you?
Not just get it and try to spin it. That's all.
I just love the game.
It really is the best time of the year.